Hello, church. Welcome to this week's message. My name is Henry Loke. This is God's Feeding Station. Honored to be with you again this week as we're back down in the studio. It got a little windy out today. Not too cold, but wasn't conducive to anything good from a message and being outside perspective. So we're back inside today. We're talking still about Reclaiming Surrendered Ground by Jim Logan. Today we're talking about the occult. We need to understand the power and the allure of it. The definition, AI definition of the occult is something that refers to hidden or esoteric knowledge involving supernatural, mystical, or magical belief and practices that often exist outside mainstream religion and science. In modern times, it encompasses a broad resurgence of alternative spiritualities, influenced by cultural shifts towards individualism, feminism, and digital communities. This includes revived ancient traditions adapted for contemporary life, as well as New Age interpretations. Large amounts of people are flocking, to this stuff every day. You see celebrities, athletes, all sorts espouse the excitement of delving into the spiritual realm, this excitement of it, the allure of it. And but as a lot of us know, but some of us don't, a lot of it is demonic, and includes a lot of different things that maybe we haven't even thought about. Things like witchcraft and Wicca. We used to deal with this stuff up at New Day Church all the time. This is stuff that's focused on empowerment, nature-based rituals, spells, casting spells, and it emphasizes personal growth, feminism, community, deals with tarot card reading, herbalism, and moon cycles. Right? So these are the types of things you need to think about. Neo-paganism and pagan revival, right? Movements that come from pre-Christian European Celtic and indigenous traditions. Druidism, heathenry, eclectic pagan rituals, seasonal festivals, deity worship, and environmental spirituality. Okay, that's what that is. Astrology, divination, esotericism, right? We know about this type of stuff. Horoscopes, crystal healing, numerology, alchemy, those types of things. Spiritualism, paranormal exploration, right? Ghost hunting, mediums, consulting mediums, communicating with spirits using things like Ouija boards, right? We've all heard of that, right? We've seen those types of things at sleepovers as kids, right? Things that involve the afterlife. Magic and ritual work, energy manipulation, ceremonial magic. Aleister Crowley was big on this type of stuff. You can look him up. Interesting figure. And then lastly, progressive and political occultism. Cult practices, social justice, things like hexing political people you don't agree with, incorporating astrology into identity politics, those types of things. In his book, right, he tells a story about, Logan tells a story about dealing with a kid who was involved in Dungeons and Dragons. And I'll keep it short. I was going to read it, but it's pretty long. But basically, the kid he gave up the game because he realized that there was stuff going on in it, and it was having an effect on his life the way he thought. And so he asked, he came to this gathering of youth at one of Jim Logan's talks, and the kid was upset, and Jim kept talking to him. He finally revealed he was involved with this. So Jim took him aside and started to pray over him, and the guy started having convulsions. His eyes rolled back into his head, and Jim Logan then invoked the power of Jesus for any spirits to come out of this kid. And all of a sudden, all this stuff that was going on in the room stopped. Crazy stuff. Kid went to seminary. Jim touched base with him later on, and the kid was fine. But this type of stuff right? This type of stuff is what's involved, and it so often gets overlooked when it comes to thinking about or realizing that this could be part of the occult, right? Video games, a lot of video games use motifs like alchemy, demonology, tarot card reading, ritual magic, right? Uses all this type of stuff as core things that relate to the story. Manga or what's the word I'm looking for? Anime, right? Especially stuff that comes out of Japan, right? This stuff uses stuff like supernatural horror, magic, hidden knowledge, and things that directly reference occult history. All my kids were into some of this stuff, right? All this stuff, we look at it as harmless, but it involves strong occult ties and pulls. And like I said, they have harmless beginnings, right? It's just dabbling. You're reading books, you're watching video, you're watching this stuff on TV, right? Full Metal Alchemy was one of the things my kids were into, right? Because my kids didn't go into it with thinking, well, we're going to open ourselves up to all kinds of satanic stuff that's just going to give us nightmares and stuff. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds like fun. No, it's like, you had a sleepover and somebody says, let's have a seance, or somebody says, hey, let's pull out the Ouija board, right? That's how this stuff starts. And if you're not versed in spiritual warfare, like many kids aren't, you don't realize the danger in this stuff. But God strictly forbids this. Right? If you go to Leviticus 19, he says, do not turn to mediums or necromancers. Do not seek them out, and so make yourselves unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Paul calls this stuff out as works of the flesh in Galatians. So we are warned in the Bible against dabbling in this stuff. We are to be aware. We are to be informed and knowledgeable and be aware of what's going on, that this stuff involves spiritual things that we're not to get involved with. Because when it comes to occult practices, we tend to have two blind spots. Logan points this out in the book. One is that we don't realize how these things can affect our walk with God. The other thing is the extent to which Christians are influenced and led to destructive behaviors by things like video games or music or movies or books. We tend to blow it off as just those types of things, and we don't see the spiritual stuff behind this. Pastor Doug and I used to talk about this type of stuff all the time amongst ourselves because we firmly believe that you had to sell your soul to be successful in the entertainment business or even in athletics. You got to sell your soul. You're going to do what we tell you to do because we're paying you all this money. And so if you're not aware, or the money or the power that you think that you're going to draw from this is more important to you, you're going to succumb to it. Logan explains that there are 4 reasons why we get into this stuff. I just mentioned one of them, right? Power. Everybody wants power. Everybody wants control. We want power over our lives, or we want power over other people's lives. And young people list this as a major draw to the New Age movement, right? This promise of control. Guidance is another one. Everybody, well, you've seen those late night, speaking of guidance, you've seen those late night commercials for psychics, right? The 1-900 psychic lines or whatever, or horoscopes. How many of you read your horoscope every day? Right? Everybody wants guidance. Everybody wants to know what we're supposed to be doing. Right? Or we're looking for an edge in love. We're looking for an edge in business. Right? So this promise of guidance lures people in. But the Bible tells us we're to turn to God for that guidance. Right? And it also tells us what we're not supposed to turn to. In Deuteronomy 18, 10 through 14. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering. Anyone who practices divination, or tells fortunes, or interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, or a medium, or a necromancer, or one who inquires of the dead. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God is driving them out before you. you shall be blameless before the Lord your God. For these nations which you are about to dispossess, listen to fortune tellers and diviners. But as for you, the Lord your God has not allowed you to do this. He's obviously talking to Israel before they go into the promised land. And he's telling them, you got to drive this stuff out. You're not to partake in any of this. This is a big one. This next category is a big one, right? Healing. Everybody, I think, has at one point or another probably wandered into some of these things, right? There's all types of things that fall under this category. Energy healing, channeling life force, bioenergy, right? Trying to balance the body's aura. Reiki, this is a big one. You see this one a lot here in Boulder, right? It's Japanese origins. Healers try to transmit life energy through symbols or hand positions. And it's got roots in spiritual initiations, and it has a potential for provoking unknown or unseen things, right? Very dangerous. Chakra healing, aligning the body's 7 main energy centers, right? Uses meditation, visualization, colors, sounds, right, to address supposed imbalances and health issues, right? But this comes from Hindu and Tantric backgrounds. Crystal healings, gemstones, using gemstones, minerals placed on the body to absorb negative energy, amplify intentions, resonate with specific chakras, quote unquote. It's tied to alchemy. Shamanic healing, journeying into the spirit realms, really dangerous. Saul got in big trouble for doing this. Sound healing, vibrations, bells, singing bowls, gongs, chanting, and comes from Eastern mysticism. We're going to address, just hang on for a second as I go through these. Magnetic or radiatory healing, using personal magnetism, right? Involves projecting higher spiritual enemies for transformation. I'm giving you the definitions of these things. Esoteric traditions, Kabbalistic Kabbalistic healing, Gnostic practices, mystery school methods, right? Initiations, soul evolutions, that kind of stuff. Last one, breathwork and herbal remedies, controlled breathing, and using plants in potions or incenses, right? Now that last one's going to tweak some people because, and I do it too, I do breath work because of my anxiety, okay? Here's the thing with these. Some of these work. The problem is what's at the root of these things. Like with the breath work and herbal remedies, right? Are you concocting potions to perform some type of magic over your body, or are you using herbs in a way that God intended them? Because I do believe in some of these things. You talk about, there's all this research around church bells and what the belief was behind that, certain frequencies in the body and how the body resonates with certain frequencies and that type of stuff. That stuff is fine depending on what the root of it is, okay? And we'll talk about the root of this stuff here in a minute. The last one that we're going to talk about as far as these 4 things, it's protection. Why people get into occult. Protection. A lot of occult practitioners believe that the spirits can protect them from harm. You see this a lot in Native American culture. Geronimo, while he wasn't a official medicine man, Geronimo had some potion he concocted that he believed protected him from the white man's bullets. And so he would just go charging into battles recklessly, and it would freak the soldiers out. Like, what is this guy doing? And there is a story that goes, he was shot 6 times in one battle, but he didn't die. So the bottom line here is, and I want to make sure I didn't skip a page here. Yeah, we're good. The bottom line here in all of this stuff is it may work, but the question is who's making it work? Like with the herbal remedies and that type of stuff, or just even with vitamins and those types of things, right? What is at the base of that? Is it straight up knowledge of these things and how they work together, which is fine. I mean, God has given us all types of things to heal us. I mean, long before there was Pfizer and Moderna, God's been working with people and giving them education as far as how herbs and plants and all these types of things work together, how the body works and how the body can heal itself when it's in balance, right? That's a God thing. That's not a witchcraft thing. But the thing is, what's at the base of this? What's at the bottom of it? What is at the root of it? What's making it work? Because some of this stuff is in the spiritual realm that we're not to dabble in. God is very clear about that. The stuff that is harmless is the stuff that God has out there, right? That God makes work in nature as it was designed to work, that has healing properties in them as God designed them. There's no problem with that stuff, right? Breathing, right, is not a problem. If you're taking deep breaths to calm your nerves, that's not an issue. What are you conjuring in your mind, though, when you're doing that? That's the question. And that's what we have to be aware of. So it's who's being invoked and what's making this work. And we're going to talk about one of those somebodies next week. But that's what we have to be aware of. So in all these things, as you go through it, and I gave you a lot of just scientific definitions of a lot of this stuff today, because I want you to go look at it. I mean, you can call this stuff up on AI and ask AI, hey, what is considered occult? What's considered witchcraft? What's considered herbal healing? And why is it considered occult? It'll spit that stuff out for you, so you have a better knowledge of what's going on. But you have to be aware of it, because there's a lot of things out there on the periphery that we just take for granted as thinking it's harmless. And on the base, it may be. But there's things underneath that are pushing these things that have their roots in things that are evil and satanic. And you have to know about those things so that you don't get caught, or so your kids don't get caught, your grandkids don't get caught. And pretty soon now you're having all kind of issues, because now we've given up ground and we've given a foothold to Satan. He's building strongholds and literally all hell's breaking loose. So you got to know, and we have to know and educate ourselves about this stuff so that we can recognize what's happening and make sure that we're prayed up against it and we're knowledgeable about it. So we'll talk about that next week. Before we go today, a couple of things. We're going to talk about holiday programming. We got some things coming up for the holidays, because we're in the throes of that now. And so we have some holiday programming coming up, as we usually do, some old-time radio stuff, some broadcasts about Christmas that Doug and I have done in the past. So check that out on the broadcast channel. Prayers will continue through Psalms. On the devotion side, beginning on the 1st of December, we have an Advent devotional on the devotion channel, as well as our My Utmost for His Highest devotionals that we're doing. Thought it would just be good to put something in there for the holiday that maybe keeps us focused and not get us so caught up in the secular stuff. We keep focused on the main reason for the season. So it'll be listed. You'll see the regular devotionals there, and then you'll see the Advent devotionals that'll have Advent in front of it and then the title. And so you can check those out as well. Thinking about what we're going to do for devotional next year. Not quite sure where we are yet, but praying about that, and also pray about what we're going to do in the daily scriptures. I'm leaning towards going back to the Old Testament again, like we did a year ago in 2024. Get mixed up what year it is, 2024, but still up in the air about that. So be praying about that. Lastly, and I don't always like to do this, but from a financial perspective, things are getting more expensive to keep this thing up and running. I've talked about it, I think, on the daily scripture probably. But for those who don't know, the app and stuff, it costs money. The website costs money to keep up and running. The app thing is the biggest thing, because when we started this thing 10 years ago, the app, it cost $90 a month for the company. We pay to the company that keeps up the app. So the thing that you have on your phone. And they do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you don't know about, because Google and Apple are constantly changing their requirements, and those guys keep up with it, because it's way above my pay grade. I don't understand the technology behind that stuff. So we pay a company to do that. Well, it's now almost $160 a month. So it's gone up $70 in the last few years. So if you'd like to partner with us and help us out with that, you can do that on the phone or on your device. There's a giving button on the app. You can look for that. I think it's heart-shaped. I think on Apple's is at the top, and on Android devices at the bottom, but don't quote me on that. You can go to the website and hit the giving button there. And I'm debating whether I start like a give, send, go kind of place because people sometimes get a little nervous entering their bank information on some of these apps, and I understand that. So give, send, go. Some people feel a little bit more comfortable with that, so I'm debating whether I do that. So just letting you know that things are getting more expensive, and so your continued support would be greatly appreciated if the Spirit so leads you to do that. So with that, I hate asking for money. I do. I don't like doing that. But like I said, things are getting expensive. So if you, again, would like to partner with us, you can do that there. That's it. I hope you have a great week. I hope that the upcoming holidays are a blessing to you. And one other thing while I think about it, a good friend of ours and somebody we used to go to church with at New Day, Joellen. Joellen's in the hospital. She's got some stuff going on. So if you could be praying for her, that would be awesome. I'd really appreciate that. So anyway, I hope the holidays are great for you as we hurtle. Seem like we're hurtling towards the end of this year again, but I hope it's blessed for you. We're going to do what we can here to keep it focused on Christ and His coming, and Thanksgiving, giving Thanksgiving to God for all that He does for us, for His provision, for His protection, for His blessings. And so we'll continue to do that as well. So we're going to focus on that and make sure that we keep the main thing. So have a great week, and Lord willing, we'll talk again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.